Left my girlfriend the moment I learned the truth. Over 10 years later, a teenager confronted me, yelling, "You walked out on us!" I handed him a DNA test. No, I walked out on a lie. I never thought I'd be the guy sharing a story like this, but here I am. Back in 2010, I was living in Chicago, working as a construction worker. Life was simple, and I was in a committed relationship with my girlfriend, Sarah. We had been together for about 3 years, and I genuinely believed she was the one. Sarah worked as a nurse at a local hospital. Our schedules were hectic, but we made it work. We lived in a modest apartment in Logan Square, a neighborhood known for its historic graystones and tree-lined streets. Our place wasn't fancy, but it was home. One evening, after a particularly grueling day at the construction site, I decided to surprise Sarah with her favorite takeout from Portillo's. I picked up 2 Chicago-style hot dogs and a chocolate cake shake, knowing how much she loved them. As I approached our apartment, I noticed an unfamiliar car parked out front. I didn't think much of it at first. Maybe a friend was visiting. I climbed the stairs to our unit and inserted my key into the lock. As I opened the door, I heard hushed voices coming from our bedroom. My heart began to race. I set the food down quietly on the kitchen counter and tiptoed toward the slightly ajar bedroom door. Peering through the crack, I saw Sarah with another man. They were laughing softly, completely unaware of my presence. My stomach dropped. I felt a mix of anger, betrayal, and disbelief. I wanted to burst in and confront them, but I couldn't move. My feet were rooted to the spot. After what felt like an eternity, I backed away from the door, grabbed the food from the kitchen, and left the apartment without making a sound. I walked aimlessly through the streets of Logan Square, the weight of what I'd just witnessed pressing down on me. I ended up at a bench in Palmer Square Park. The irony wasn't lost on me. We had spent countless afternoons here, talking about our future. Now, that future was shattered. I knew I couldn't go back. That night, I crashed at a friend's place in Wicker Park. I didn't tell him what had happened. I couldn't find the words. The next day, while Sarah was at work, I returned to the apartment, packed my belongings, and left my key on the kitchen table with a note. I know. Goodbye. I changed my number and deleted my social media accounts. I wanted a clean break. I moved to New York City, hoping for a fresh start. I found work in construction again and settled into a small apartment in Queens. The city was different, faster paced, but it kept me busy, which was what I needed. Years went by. I remained single, not trusting myself to get close to anyone again. The pain of Sarah's betrayal lingered, and I threw myself into work to distract from the loneliness. Then, in 2023, something unexpected happened. I was walking through Central Park, enjoying a rare day off. The park was bustling with activity, families picnicking, couples rowing boats on the lake, joggers making their rounds. I found myself near Bethesda Terrace, taking in the beauty of the fountain and the angel statue. As I stood there, lost in thought, I heard someone call out, "Hey! You!" I turned to see a teenager, probably around 13 or 14, approaching me with a determined look on his face. He had dark hair and piercing blue eyes that seemed eerily familiar. "You walked out on us!" he yelled, his voice filled with emotion. I was taken aback. "I'm sorry, but I think you have the wrong person," I replied, trying to make sense of the situation. He pulled a crumpled photograph from his pocket and thrust it toward me. I took it hesitantly. The photo showed Sarah holding a baby. My heart skipped a beat. "That's my mom," he said, his voice trembling. "She told me about you. How you left us without a word." I felt the ground shift beneath me. Could it be? Did Sarah have a child, our child, that I never knew about? "What's your name?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Michael," he replied. I did the math quickly in my head. If Sarah had been pregnant when I left in 2010, Michael's age would align. But doubts clouded my mind. "Michael, I didn't know about you," I began, struggling to find the right words. Your mother and I, we had our differences. But I never knew she was pregnant. She said you abandoned us? He shot back, tears welling up in his eyes. I took a deep breath, trying to process everything. Michael, I want to make this right. But I think we need to be sure. Would you be willing to take a DNA test? He hesitated, then nodded. Okay. We exchanged contact information and arranged to meet at a clinic the next day. The process was straightforward, but the waiting was agonizing. A week later, the results were in. I sat in my apartment, the envelope in my hands. I debated whether to open it alone or wait for Michael. In the end, I decided to read it first. As I unfolded the paper, my eyes scanned the document until they landed on the words. Probability of paternity 0%. A mix of relief and sadness washed over me. I wasn't Michael's father, but that meant he had been living with a lie his whole life. I met Michael at a cafe near the park. He looked anxious, his foot tapping nervously against the floor. I handed him the envelope. I read it, I admitted. But you should see for yourself. He opened it and read the results. His face paled. I'm sorry, I said softly. I didn't walk out on you. I walked out on a lie. He looked up at me, confusion and hurt evident in his eyes. Then who is my father? I shook my head. I don't know. But I think your mother has some explaining to do. We sat in silence for a while, the weight of the situation hanging heavily between us. Michael, I began. I know this is a lot to take in. But if you need someone to talk to, I'm here. He nodded slowly. Thanks. We parted ways that day, both carrying the heavy burden of truths unveiled. Life has a cruel way of unraveling secrets, and sometimes the past refuses to stay buried. Over the next few weeks, Michael and I kept in touch. He confronted Sarah about the DNA results, and she confessed that she had been unsure of his paternity but chose to tell him I was his father because she believed it was the best option. Michael was devastated. His trust in his mother was shattered, and he struggled with his identity. I did my best to support him, offering guidance and a listening ear. One day, he asked me, "Would you be willing to help me find my real father?" I was taken aback but agreed. Of course, Michael. We'll figure this out together. We began the journey of uncovering his true paternity, delving into Sarah's past relationships and seeking out potential candidates. It was a challenging and emotional process, but I was determined to help Michael find the answers he deserved. Things got more complicated fast. A week after Michael and I started looking into Sarah's past, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. It was Sarah. Her voice sounded the same, but older, tired. She didn't waste time. "I know you met him," she said flatly. "You had no right." I stayed quiet. I wanted to yell, ask her why she lied, why she let that kid grow up thinking I left him. But I didn't. I just said, "He came to me. He deserved to know the truth." "You think I wanted this?" she snapped. "You think I wanted to raise a kid alone? That got me. I didn't even know he existed. You made that choice on your own." Silence. Then a shaky breath. "I thought you were the father. I was sure. Then you left. And I didn't know how to fix it." "You could have told me," I said. "I didn't want him to feel unwanted." He was already born into a mess. Then she hung up. The next day, Michael called. He sounded off. "She showed up at school," he said. "Tried to take me home in front of everyone. It was humiliating." "Did you go with her?" I asked. "No. I told her I'm not going anywhere until I get the truth." It was a lot for a 14-year-old to handle. I started to worry. Was I dragging him into something he wasn't ready for? But then things took a sharp turn. We had a lead. Michael remembered an old photo his mom had of a man holding him as a baby. The guy had a tattoo on his forearm, a red hawk. We started looking through old photos online, searching for anyone local with a tattoo like that. It was a long shot, but we had time and curiosity. Then one night, Michael texted me a picture. It was grainy, taken from an old social media post. Could this be him? The guy looked familiar, but I couldn't place him right away. Then it hit me. He used to work with me. At the same construction company. His name was Derek. We weren't close, but I remembered he had hooked up with a nurse once. The guys talked about it at lunch one day, laughing like it was some locker room story. I never put it together until now. Derek had the same tattoo. I called an old buddy from back then, asked if he knew where Derek was now. He told me Derek had moved back to Indiana, just outside of Gary. Ran a small auto shop. Michael and I took a weekend drive out there. We didn't say much on the way. He was quiet, eyes locked on the window. I could tell his mind was racing. When we pulled up to the shop, Derek was outside, wiping his hands on a rag. He looked older, rough around the edges. But it was him. He saw us and squinted. "Can I help you?" I stepped forward. "You might want to sit down. This is about something from years ago. About Sarah." His face froze for a second. Then he looked at Michael. I saw something flicker in his expression. Recognition, maybe? "I ain't seen her in over a decade," he said slowly. Michael stepped up beside me. "You helped me in a photo. You have a Red Hawk tattoo." Derek looked like he'd been punched in the gut. He dropped the rag. "You serious?" We told him everything. Who Michael thought his father was, the DNA test, Sarah's lies. He sat on a stool and rubbed his face. "I was seeing her off and on back then," he said. "Never thought I'd be a dad. She stopped answering my calls one day and that was it." Michael stood stiff. "We can do a test." Derek nodded, still stunned. Yeah, we should." But it didn't end there. A few nights later, someone threw a rock through my apartment window. It shattered glass everywhere. Taped to the rock was a note. "Stay out of it." I knew it had to be Sarah. I called the cops, filed a report, but there wasn't much they could do. No cameras, no witnesses. Michael wanted to go stay with a cousin for a bit. Said he needed space. I didn't blame him. The next week, we got the results back. The DNA results came back. Derek wasn't the father. Michael sat across from me in my living room, reading the paper over and over again like he was trying to change the words by sheer force of will. "How is that possible?" he finally asked. "He looked just like me." I didn't have an answer. I thought Derek was it, everything lined up. But now we were back to zero. That same night, Michael called me again, his voice tense. "I went through my mom's closet. I found something." "What kind of something?" "Letters. Old ones. From a guy named Roman." The name didn't ring a bell. "He signed every letter the same way," Michael continued. "Love always are." They were dated around the same time she got pregnant. One even said he was coming to see her at work. She never mentioned him. I asked him to take pictures and send them over. They looked real, handwritten, full of personal notes. A couple even hinted at a pregnancy scare. One line read, "If you're really late, we'll figure it out together. I'm not going anywhere." But here's the thing that threw me off. One of the envelopes was postmarked from Joliet Correctional Center. "Michael," I said slowly, "did your mom ever mention knowing someone who went to prison?" "No. Never." I dug into the name. Roman, redacted last name for privacy. Turns out, he was arrested in 2009 for armed robbery and assault. He did 10 years, released on parole 2 years ago. I found a phone number and a parole address through a buddy who works in law enforcement. Now the story was spiraling into something neither of us expected. I drove out to Joliet myself, parked across the street from the listed address. I just wanted to see him before I reached out. The guy who came out of the house that afternoon looked rough, mid-40s, tattoos creeping up his neck, a deep limp in his right leg. It wasn't until I followed him for a block that he stopped, turned around, and said, "Why are you tailing me?" I didn't flinch. I need to talk to you. It's about Sarah. From Chicago. 2010. His expression changed in an instant. You know her? He asked cautiously. I knew her. But you might have known her better than I did. He didn't say anything, just stared me down. There's a kid, I added. His name's Michael. He's 14. He thinks I'm his dad. I'm not. Derek wasn't either. But we found letters. Yours. Roman's mouth twitched slightly. Then he said, I told her I'd come back. She never answered my letters after a while. I thought she changed her mind. You were in prison, I said. She didn't tell him anything about you. He doesn't even know you exist. He looked down at his hands. I asked her to wait. I begged her. I told her I'd go straight, find work, be there for the kid. She gave him my name, I said, bitterness creeping into my voice. Told him I walked out. Roman looked up again, and this time, his expression wasn't anger, it was grief. She didn't wait for me. But I never stopped thinking about him. I gave him my number. If you want to do a test, let me know. 3 days later, he called. Said he was in. Michael was wary but agreed to meet him, only after the test. When they sat face to face in the clinic waiting room, the resemblance was there. Roman looked like an older version of Michael, with the same eyes, same slanted smile. It was hard to ignore. While we waited for results, Sarah came back into the picture, loudly. She showed up at my job site. I was in the middle of loading drywall when she stormed in, security trailing behind her. You're poisoning my son, she yelled. You had no right. Everyone stopped what they were doing. I gave him the truth you never did, I said, keeping my voice calm. You don't know what it was like back then. She hissed. I did what I had to do. Lying for 14 years? I asked. Telling him I left him? Her face went red. Security escorted her out, but I knew this wasn't over. That night, my apartment door had a knife stabbed into the wood. A sticky note was stuck to the blade. He's mine. Stay away. This wasn't just about a DNA test anymore. This was unraveling something darker. Michael was in the middle of it, and I was starting to think I'd stepped into a storm that had been building for 14 years, and now it was all coming to a head. The DNA results came in 5 days later. Roman was Michael's father. No doubt. 99.99% probability. When I read the paper, I didn't know what I felt first: relief, anger, or something hollow in between. I sat there for a while, just staring at the envelope. Michael didn't speak right away when I told him. He looked at me, then down at the results sheet, then back at me. So that's it? He asked. I nodded. That's it. A few seconds passed before he whispered, I hate her. I didn't argue. I didn't try to fix it. I just sat next to him. We agreed not to call Sarah. Not yet. Michael wanted to talk to Roman first, just the two of them. I understood. They met at a diner in Joliet, and I waited in the car, giving them space. The conversation lasted nearly 2 hours. When Michael came out, his face was blank. He's not a bad guy, he said. He's rough, but he wanted to be there. She didn't let him. Then came the final blow. 3 days later, Sarah showed up again, this time, uninvited, at Michael's cousin's house where he was staying. She banged on the door until someone let her in. I wasn't there, but his cousin recorded everything on his phone. Sarah was screaming. About betrayal. About everyone turning on her. About how she was the victim. Then Michael walked into the room. Calm. Tell me the truth, he said. Just once. Sarah froze. She looked around, suddenly aware everyone was watching. Then she said it. I didn't know who your father was. I didn't want to raise you alone. He was in prison. I didn't want you to grow up ashamed. But you told me he left us. Michael pointed to the phone, showing my face from a recent photo. I thought it was easier that way. She snapped. Michael's hands shook. So you lied to me for 14 years? I was protecting you. No, he said. You were protecting yourself. That's when she slapped him. The room went silent. Michael didn't say a word. He turned, walked to the door, and left. His cousin kicked Sarah out immediately. She stood outside screaming, begging to talk to him, to make him listen. He didn't stop. I saw the video that night. And I cried. Not because of what she did, but because of what that moment cost him. He didn't deserve this story. He deserved something better than the mess we all left him in. The next few days were quiet. Roman checked in now and then, unsure of how much to push. Michael stayed with me for a while. Said he needed time. Sarah tried to call. Texted nonstop. She showed up at my apartment again, crying this time. Real tears. She sat on the stairs and begged me to talk to her. I loved you, she said. I was scared. Everything just happened so fast. You didn't just lie to me, I told her. You built a life on it. You made a kid believe he was abandoned. I thought you wouldn't care. I looked her in the eye. I did. I would've. But you never gave me the chance. She left quietly that night. No more screaming. Just silence. Over the next few months, Michael started spending more time with Roman. It was awkward at first, sure. But they both tried. There was this one day at the park. They were playing catch, something simple, and I saw Michael laugh, like really laugh. And that's when I knew it was going to be okay. Not perfect, but okay. As for me, I've thought a lot about what it means to walk away. At first, I carried guilt. For leaving. For missing the chance to raise a kid I thought was mine. But I've made peace with it now. I walked away from a lie. And that saved me. Maybe even saved Michael. We still talk. Not every day. But enough. Sometimes people come into your life to teach you something. Sometimes to break you. And sometimes both. Sarah taught me about love. And about lies. Michael taught me about truth. About holding on, even when everything breaks. And me? I'm still here. Wiser. A little older. Still working. Still healing. I don't know what the future holds. I'm not the hero of this story. I was just part of it. But I do know this: truth always comes out. And when it does, it burns everything it touches. But what's left after, that's real.